is folks will come through the line and will be issue their ID and show it. If it's not compliant, they may be diverted to a different line, have an extra step, but people will be allowed to fly.
That is U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem telling a congressional panel yesterday travelers who did not get their real ID by today's deadline will be able to fly after additional security checks. Noem said that 81% of travelers already have IDs that comply with the real ID requirements, adding that TSA security checkpoints will also be accepting passports and tribal identification when today's deadline hits. So a bit of a change, but today is the day. It's 20 years in the making. The deadline for the real ID is here.
Okay, so now if you want to fly domestically, you're going to need a real ID or a federally compliant ID to get through TSA. But there was a last-minute change for those of you who don't have that proper ID to fly. This applies for folks as well. I have TSA pre and clear, and I still need a real ID. Yes, so I know. Troy Lynch is live at Sky Harbor right now walking us through what we need to know. So how many people have you encountered out there, Troy, who don't have it? How many mad people have you seen?
Yeah, I know. There have been a few different people that haven't had their real ID, but they're not stressing because they had their passport or some other form of identification. But it's interesting that you bring up the TSA pre-check, Justin, because I just asked the TSA agent, and I asked him, if you have TSA pre-check but you don't have a real ID, you could still go through TSA pre-check, but you're going to have to go through additional screenings that are going to go about 15 to 30 minutes extra. So if you don't even have TSA pre-check, it's going to be a similar situation. But take a look behind me. This is what the foot traffic is looking like. Definitely picking up as we go through the morning right now. You could see the TSA agent right here just kind of guiding traffic, asking if people have their real ID. And if you don't, you go through general boarding. You'll go through a separate line and then go through the additional screenings there. The TSA pre-check that we heard from said there were about 10 people that didn't have a real ID or a federally compliant ID. So then they had to go through those additional screenings. However, over 2.75 million Arizonans, they've already updated their ID according to ADOT, and they tell me their busiest days to make a real ID appointment are Fridays and Mondays. So I want to show you what the busier locations looked like here in North Phoenix of this MVD last Friday. Line's not necessarily out of the door, but you're waiting about an hour if you didn't make an appointment. However, Bill Lamoureux with ADOT tells me appointments were booked up leading up to the deadline, and there's a large increase in business. However, the deadline might have passed. ADOT is saying don't freak out and rush to the MVD if you don't have one. It really doesn't matter too much until you have to travel. They say walk-ins are always welcome, but they're recommending people wait and make an appointment just a few weeks before you're supposed to travel to alleviate that MVD congestion. Then you should get your real ID mailed to you in just about 2 weeks.
It might be better to avoid the rush because right now we are seeing longer lines than typical, probably about double, if not even longer than that.
Oh, it's completely annoying. You're asking, this is rhetorical?
I am doing everything at the last minute as usual, so I'm here to get my real ID.
I have to make sure I can travel. So regardless of the fact that it's valid and everything else, this is what's happening.
So there are a lot of people who still have questions about whether their real ID is legit. This is what it needs to look like. Either that gold or black circle with the star outline in the middle, in the top right-hand corner of your license. If you have this, you are good to go. But listen up, if you don't have your real ID yet and you want one fast, you gotta make sure you're not falling for scams. If you're going to remember anything from this, remember this. You must have an in-person meeting in order to get a real ID. There's a scam going around where people get texts or emails saying you can expedite the process if you enter your social security number in a scam website. Don't do that. You won't be getting contacted via email, text, or call about getting a real ID. You got to go in person. Now, according to GuidePoint, scam texts about real ID have actually gone up 40%.
Regardless of how official it looks and what the graphics look like, if it's not associated with your DMV as a for your driver's license, it's not the real thing.
So you can take a look around Sky Harbor right now. Lots of signage still up about getting your real ID. You can tell the lines are getting a little bit longer. However, in order to get that real ID, when you go to the MVD, you're going to need a few different things: a birth certificate or a U.S. passport, your social security number, and then 2 different forms that prove your Arizona residency. It's only $25, and then that license is valid for 8 years. And so if you don't have a real ID and you're still trying to come in and travel, you can use a green card, a military ID, tribal identification. There are a few other federally compliant IDs as well to make sure you are good to go. The real ID really just makes things a little bit easier to travel. But coming up, when we're on 12 plus at 7 o'clock, I'm going to be going around asking people whether or not they have their real ID. Maybe we can find somebody who doesn't have anything and has to go through additional screening. But for now, we're live here at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. Troy Lynch, 12 News, Today in AZ.